Apologies for the lack of video for this video. There were some problems with the editing, and spoilers for Fruits Basket. This video had a script at some point, but I wanted it to be unique in the fact that it was my return, and that I wasn't I wasn't happy with the way that the original script turned out, but I wanted to return. So I decided that, at least for this version, this video, it would be a little more me. It would have a little bit more of myself in it. There will be bits from my script because I wrote notes, and I enjoyed Fruits Basket, and so I'd at least like a little bit of that to shine through. Fruits Basket was a series I grew up with. I watched the original 2001 anime when I was a little child, and a part of it has always stuck. Maybe part of it was the eccentric characters who were easy to love. Some of it was the captivating mystery, which made the entire series just addicting. And some of it was just because it was there. And a combination of those things meant that Fruits Basket was something I enjoyed growing up. It isn't perfect, and I would be the first to say it. There are flaws. And as the series went on, you could tell that it was showing growing pains. And the series starts off in a really, I guess, unique setting for the time. Not in the fact that there's a main character out living in the woods, but the fact that a female protagonist is out living in the woods, and she's an orphan, which isn't really brought up all that much. The fact that Toru is an orphan, but we follow Toru as she meets the Somas and gets encapsulated in their family drama. And as the story goes on, we learn more and more about the curse, and we meet more characters. And this series doesn't have that weird issue where it introduces too many characters and no one gets developed. There are some characters that have that pain, but they are very minor. Except Toru's friends, who don't get any characterization in the first like 2 volumes of the manga, which is kind of problematic, but I guess shit happens. The main appeal of Fruits Basket is the Zodiac and all the characters and how they interact with the world and how Toru interacts with all the characters. Sorry, I had the bits of my script crash. Oops. Usually this would get edited out, and if it wasn't for the fact that my editing software died a couple of times in the original version, I wouldn't be doing this. The Zodiac characters are eccentric and fun. We have Momoji, who grows up, and we see the growth of his character as he goes from this childish character to someone who wants to actually help Toru, and in a way that I don't think it might be addressed in the Fruits Basket spin-off stories, is kind of sad because when all the Zodiac spirits leave, like the main cast, you realize that Momoji's family basically doesn't even remember he exists, which is kind of sad. And it's a bit awkward for a good ending in quotation marks. We have Kyo, who had one of the most bullshit revelations of all time come out towards the end of the series. And there are a couple of bullshit revelations, let's be honest, where he could have saved Toru's mom, and Kyo and Toru's mom used to hang out all the time, despite the fact that the Soma household is scared of the cat spirit, and that they just like kept adding lore in, and then there was Toru's mom saying she would never forgive Kyo and all of this, and it's just like, why is this here? This is fluff. This kind of ruins everything. We had Yuki Soma, who had some of the best characterization in the series, including the part where he didn't actually see Toru as like someone he was interested in romantically, but he saw as just like a mother figure and a good friend, which is interesting considering how it seemed like it was a romantic rivalry between Kyo and Yuki early on, but it's what makes it interesting. The characterization, even the fact that Yuki was willing to push past his trauma constantly and step forward. It's great. We have Kagura, who I always like. I was going to say her name wrong again. Honestly, the weakest of the characterization. She loves Kyo, and then nothing changes except the fact that she accepts that Kyo doesn't really love her. Which, I mean, that's fine, I guess, but kinda would have liked to see more. We have Rin, who wants to break the curse and doesn't do much else, to be honest. She's set up as a mystery character and then never leaves that mystery character phase. We have I'm trying to remember the names of the two kids. This is very. Oh no, I mean this is very professional. Thanks, Google. We have Hiro Soma, who does things. He's a brat, and his characterization is constantly, "Oh, I'm a brat," except I don't like being a brat. And then rinse and repeat infinitely. Then we have Kisa Soma, who I actually never say the name right, ever. I've got a history of saying that wrong. She was interesting, but then you realize that she's introduced in like episode 14 of both animes and doesn't show up for another like 10 episodes or something ridiculous. And that's a problem, like, with characterization. And her character is basically she was bullied, and then Toru helps her, and then she has a very healthy character arc where she starts getting along with her mom again. We have the monkey Zodiac, who I think was the least funny character, and I actually don't think had a character arc. We have Shigure, who doesn't deserve a character arc, and honestly, when you look at all the things he kind of did, he doesn't deserve the happy ending he gets. But we'll get along with that one in a second. We have Hattori, who ends up engaged with one of the friends of his ex-fiancée, because he had a very interesting backstory, and like his characterization was really well, where he just wanted to help Toru, but because he'd seen what had happened before when other people got involved with the Zodiac, especially potential love interests. Yes. And then we have Akito and his mom. His mom is, oh, sorry, I say his mom because like I started rereading it to kind of help with this section, and then it's revealed that Akito is a girl towards the end for no fucking reason. It actually actively hurts the story that's being told, but I think it's a problem with Fruits Basket towards the end. The series goes from really well written and like organically introducing twists to doing so much twisting at once to keep readers going that your brain actively turns off because you're enjoying it, and then there's this twist, and then there's this twist, and then there's this twist, but none of these twists actually help the story. They kind of just make it boring. Like, what the fuck does anyone get from Akito being a girl? Nothing. We get, oh sorry, Shigure ends up in a relationship with Akito because why the fuck not? I guess the character who consistently beat every other character in the cast deserves a happy ending. Or the character who used our entire cast to further the mind games of this other character that beat everyone. Perfect characters. And then you've got Hattori's new GF, who's Toru's teacher, who doesn't ever question the fact that Kana, Hattori's old wife, just lost her memories and then they never got back together. Magically. Or does she know about the Zodiac? It's never explained in the actual story. But it's a series that early on is really enjoyable because the twists there are entertaining. You go, okay, that's a cool plot twist. I wonder where the story's going to go. And then the series later goes, Kyo has been around Toru's mum her entire life and is lame. And I don't really want to rag on the ending volumes because I do actually. They're garbage. They just... Fruits Basket was so good. And it was a series where I could pick up any volume of the manga and read, and the twists would intrigue you, and especially that first chapter does a very good job of keeping the reader going. It's 50 pages long, but you don't notice it. You're like, I want to read more. And then by the end, you're kind of hoping it would fucking end soon because the story has gone nowhere. The characters haven't developed for the last 600 pages. And the only characters that are getting character developments are terrible ones who are getting plot twists out of fucking nowhere. But, you know, then the series ends. Everyone gets a happy ending. And the series actually has a tendency to go, here's the start of the happy ending, here's the actual happy ending, I'm going to skip some of the in-between. elaborate from there yourselves. Which I think is disingenuous. It kind of spits in the face of the rest of the story, because the rest of it was really good at like characterization and like getting from point A to point B. But you know what? I'm going to talk very specifically about some characters who I'm going to talk about Kyo, because he's like the perfect example, right? So Kyo has an inferiority complex due to the fact that he's the cat. He's constantly like defeated in fights against every other member of the Zodiac. He gets his ass kicked. He gets dropped. And he had the most interesting characterization. He was even so special that he had this alternate monster form, and his father blamed him for his mother's death, and there's all these small moments that made Kyo really interesting, and then the story kept fucking with it, and then Kyo has been around since the beginning, and blah de blah de blah, and you're sitting here going, how the fuck is this possible? The Somas were very uptight about him because he's different, even amongst the Zodiac. He's dangerous, and you're constantly sitting here going, why is anything like this? Akito wants all the Zodiac members to stay in the main household, so why the fuck does he constantly let them leave? And we know that the Zodiac can't defy Akito. And then we get the rooster guy, who we never see turn into his Zodiac animal because he's free, and he's been free the entire time. And he has the weirdest characterization where he falls in love with like a 16-year-old. And it's bad. Then we have Toru's friends, who, ironically enough, get about as much characterization as... Actually, I think they get less characterization by the end than the people who literally bullied Toru because she was friends with Yuki Soma. The series just has these moments, and it seems like it's bent on redeeming some of the worst fucking characters in the series, which is weird because you have so many interesting and good characters, and they're thrown to the side for some chick who bullies everyone because they dare interact with one guy, and then she's never to be heard from again. Anyway, this was going to be a longer video. For my next review, I do want to do a proper scripted review where everything doesn't crash halfway through and I have to give up and work on a bit. So I'm sorry that it's not as professional as I would have liked. And to be honest, I personally want to redo this when I have a different mindset, because I'd read Fruits Basket originally about when I made the statement that I would do the Fruits Basket review series, and then I reread it a couple of times to try and do the Fruits Basket review series, but then I had a lot of stuff go on, and kind of made me jaded towards the series, even though I thoroughly enjoyed a good chunk of it. But I cannot deny the flaws. It's ironic that a series about characters and with an interesting premise, when you try to think about it off the top of your head, has so little to offer, despite the fact that you'd think it has a lot to offer. And it does. It has a lot to offer. The characters are engaging and they actually have dynamics where it's not all just everyone loves the main character, and you can see growth. I was trying to think of how I wanted to phrase that. We see so many characters change, but then you look back on it and the only real noticeable changes are for characters like Yuki Soma, who goes from a complete mystery or not being in the story for a while to being willing to give up his secret to a girl he's starting to fancy. And that moment is robbed of everything because almost magically at the same point in time, Akito's non-existent character arc comes in and she goes, by magic, you're all free of the Zodiac, which ruins Yuki Soma's characterization. Because he was done being anxious. He wanted to be a stronger character. Toru doesn't have a character arc, but that's actually a factually incorrect statement. She actually does. It's called a flat positive change arc where she inflicts change on the world. But even then, she develops a little bit. She wants to learn more about the Zodiac. She wants to help more. But fundamentally, she doesn't change. But that's also kind of a flaw, especially in a character like this. She's always happy, but she's a literal orphan. She has no family left. I mean, she has her grandfather and her piece of shit relatives who aren't actually that bad when you look at the grand scheme of things. But the way they act, they are terrible people. One day, I'll come back to this in a more positive light, in a space where my computer doesn't crash every 15 seconds. And I will redo this. I will redo this in a happier way. But for now, thank you as always. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell me how shit this was, how poorly it was done. I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.